It's time to get fired up. Who's fired up in here? All right, because y'all got some money in your pocket and you want to keep it there, right? Well, I'm very delighted to be here. I'd like to thank all of you who worked so hard to put this event on, to get us all together, to organize and focus on our future, because our future is important. And we see what's happening in Washington now, and I'm telling you folks, you can do something about it. So let me start this way. 2006, get over it. All right? It is time now to focus on winning, not losing, winning. All right? So I just want to pass on to you, one very important lesson before I get into my very brief remarks. What I learned in the 2006 campaign is very simple. You can't please everybody, ladies and gentlemen, but you can certainly make them all mad at you at the same time. And we were very good at that. But that was then, and this is now. And now focuses our attention on the future. And although I grew up in this city, I grew out of a household that talked about common values, common sense, things that made sense to my mother and me and my sister. And I felt that I was living in a real world. But growing up in Washington, I realized that there was this alter universe called Capitol Hill, where their understanding of my values, their understanding of the things that my mother valued were quite different. You see, I first learned the value of $1 from a sharecropper's daughter, who was pulled out of school in the 5th grade to work in the cotton fields of South Carolina. She would later go on to work and struggle hard to provide for her family, working for 45 years, and the most she'd ever make in her life was $3.80 an hour. Through the remarkable example of her life, her will, her experience, my mother was the first person who taught me about fiscal discipline, the value of $1, budgeting, and most importantly, how thoughtful investment, when coupled with hard work, can provide empowerment and opportunity. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if a sharecropper's daughter can figure that out, why can't these numbnuts on Capitol Hill figure that out? And when you hear leaders, real leaders, stand up and say, we're going to fight to keep more of our hard-earned money, that we're going to be responsible stewards of the people's money, you immediately hear and see this zero-sum attitude of, well, you can't be a responsible steward of the people's money and meet the basic needs of those people who are in need. Well, I say to that, baloney. And my point is this: leadership, ladies and gentlemen, make a difference. It makes a difference every day in terms of who pays and how much they pay. For example, the old shell game of holding the line on individual tax rates, but then nailing taxpayers indirectly through higher business taxes, may make some in the state and federal governments think that they're rocket scientists, but you and I know better. Our reality is very simply this: businesses don't pay taxes any more than houses pay property taxes. People pay taxes, ladies and gentlemen. The responsibility of those we elect, and you have a whole lot of folks coming before you who want to get elected to something, the responsibility that they have and that we have in electing them to send them to our state capitals and to our nation's capital is that we ask them to be an honest broker on our behalf, to enact policies that encourage greater economic development and growth, and to foster a climate that promotes job creation while at the same time remaining responsive to the welfare of those who often get left behind as growth take hold. Now, we need a revolution, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what I'm calling on today. A revolution in the attitude of government officials and those who pretend to be government officials when it comes to making public policy. As leaders, our policies must empower citizens, not government. It's that simple. In the same vein, our economic policy should be geared towards empowering America and the businesses that grow in this country, how they expand, how they create entire opportunities for communities and workers throughout this country. An effective tax system should be built to encourage growth and prosperity for businesses and families. It should reflect our values and our priorities as a nation. Now, just as my mother struggled to make ends meet for our family, almost every family in this country somehow or another today struggles to make ends meet. Many households, mine included, have those kitchen table conversations. And I'm sure many of you have had those kitchen table conversations where you're talking about, okay, can we afford to go to college? Can we afford to expand our business? How do we manage living paycheck to paycheck? It is at that kitchen table that priorities are defined and costs are charted. This is the reality each of us faces, and it is only reasonable to expect that our government and its officials face the same realities that we face. Political leadership in this country must commit to proposing common sense budget, tax, and health plans that deal honestly with spending, saving, and investing, just like the rest of us. And so there's a lot more I want to say. The clock is running on me, but I want to leave you with this thought for now. You are the grassroots. You're the heart and soul of this new agenda, this revolution. You're Democrat, you're Republican, you're Libertarian, you're white, you're black, you're male, you're female, you're young, you're old. Bottom line, you're Americans. And as Americans, you have a stake, not just in our past, but in our future. And it will be up to you. And it will be up to you and the candidates you elect from the State House to the White House to be the architects of this new agenda for our nation. Taxes and spending are a function of government, but it is the job of leaders to make sure our spending and our tax policies are a function of a thoughtful and deliberative process reflective of our values and our priorities. That is why it is so critical that we enact common sense reforms that reinforce our commitment to families, make the Bush tax cuts permanent. And it is also important to work towards a fiscal and financial stability that can be passed down from one generation to another. Kill the death tax. I believe that as this new era unfolds and this new agenda becomes a reality, we're going to need that leadership in place. And GoPac and so many others of us out here are working hard every day to make sure that leadership understands you, not government, you. So it's time to act to preserve and defend this little thing we call the American dream. That dream reminds us that while your name may not be Rockefeller or Vanderbilt or even Oprah, right? Your dream has a legacy attached to it because you can create a legacy when you're able to realize that dream. That dream moves us from just sitting at the lunch counter, ladies and gentlemen, to owning the diner. That dream gives us the opportunity to empower our communities to grow and prosper and never have to look over our shoulder at a government that's trying to take more from you than it deserves. Our tax and spending fiscal policies can no longer interfere with that dream. Instead, we must underscore our shared vision and act as a foundation in the development of our economy, not in its deterioration, by growing small businesses and making affordable health care a reality, and by fostering an environment in which competition and innovation flourishes. No people can prosper when its leaders believe the way to empowerment lies not in the advancement of the individual, but in the promotion of an opportunistic government. We must not lose sight of the immediate future or in the real and tangible advantages that come from programs that operate within the context of sound fiscal and tax policies and a balanced budget. The old rules, ladies and gentlemen, no longer apply. And for that, I am very grateful because you're the ones that are making the difference. God bless you. Let's get out there and give them hell.